Man, you want to go for a ride?
This comedian was famous for crossing the line both on stage and in his personal life. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're taking a look at the life and career of Richard Pryor.
What do you mean I'm not white?
Richard Pryor was born Richard Franklin Lennox Thomas Pryor III on December 1st, 1940 in Peoria, Illinois. An only child, Pryor's early years were spent living in his grandmother's brothel, where his mother was a prostitute. Abandoned by his mother at age 10, his tumultuous childhood was filled with abuse. As a student, he was a class clown who frequently disrupted fellow students with his antics. One teacher gave him the opportunity to perform his rudimentary stand-up routine for his classmates once a week in exchange for his good behavior. This was Pryor's first taste at performing comedy. By 1963, he had moved to New York City and had begun performing his routines in nightclubs. In the early days of his stand-up career, Pryor emulated the comedy of his idol, Bill Cosby. His clean-cut humor entertained New York audiences and even won him a few appearances on television variety shows.
When I get self-conscious, there's a voice in the back of my head says, "How's your breath?" Right? I get crazy, because there's nothing worse than walking up to a lady saying, "Hi." And she says, "No."
His popularity grew, and he eventually started performing in Las Vegas. However, by 1967, Pryor decided he no longer wanted to be compared to Cosby. In an episode that Pryor referred to as his epiphany, the comedian walked off stage in front of a sold-out Vegas audience. It was at this time Pryor began including profanity in his routines. This era of his comedy can be heard on the comic's self-titled debut album, which was released in 1968.
We find Super Nigger with his X-ray vision that enables him to see through everything except Whitey.
Shortly thereafter, Pryor took a break from his career and moved to California. There, he spent his time people-watching and learning more about the area's counterculture and black community. It was this keen sense of observation that truly set Pryor apart from his peers. In 1970, he was back on stage with a new persona. Marking a complete departure from his early work, the street-tough comedian cursed and provided sharp social commentary on issues facing African Americans. Pryor's physical humor was also a significant part of his act, as he used it to personify different black characters.
White cats in Vegas, I was in Las Vegas, right? They gamble different, very quiet, like
2,000 on the 5. Oops, I missed. Gosh, you is.
Niggas be talking about, hump, baby. Shit, bet I'd do it over time.
In fact, Pryor is recognized as the first African-American comedian to openly address integrated audiences. This candidness helped lead to his mainstream success in the early 1970s, and he went on to release a number of successful comedy albums in the years that followed. The next years were spent honing his craft and writing for popular television shows such as Sanford and Son. By 1977, he was given his own comedy variety show. However, due to its controversial content, it only lasted 7 episodes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Pryor.
Due to technical difficulties, we cannot continue to bring you the audio portion of the Richard Pryor Show. However, I'm an NBC spokesman, and I will be happy to tell you what Mr. Pryor is saying. I will now read from tonight's network-approved script. Gosh, I'm just pleased as punch to be continuing on as part of the NBC family. They truly understand me and have been oh so fair.
By 1983, however, he had toned down his language and comedy.
We're going to get down. My mama gave me this.
Your mama ain't never gave you nothing, baby.
Pryor appeared in a number of popular films in the 1970s and 80s. These included the 1976 film Silver Streak, which saw his first collaboration with Gene Wilder, the 1978 film adaptation of The Wiz, an African-American retelling of The Wizard of Oz, 1983's Superman 3, which earned Pryor $4 million, and 1989's Harlem Nights, which is famous for featuring 3 generations of black comedians.
What?
Throughout his career, Pryor was preceded by his reputation for being difficult to work with. Because of this and his well-established drug use, he lost many big film roles in the 1980s. In his personal life, Pryor was married 7 times to 5 different women with whom he'd fathered 6 children. He was also plagued with health issues throughout the later part of his career, including 2 heart attacks and multiple sclerosis. He died of heart failure on December 10, 2005. Considered one of the most influential comedians in American history, Pryor's reputation endures even after his death. To this day, his stand-up sets continue to shock audiences and are still considered ahead of their time.
I was at home, I said, I know I do something, because there's too many white folks paying attention to me.
The mark of a successful comedian is admiration by his colleagues, and Richard Pryor has inspired generations of comics with his radical humor and widespread popularity.
Since you love me so much, I remember this one, it strike the match like this. What's that? Richard Pryor running down the street.